Hello everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about entry-level trade routes. I wanted to start with saying that if you're planning on getting in trading, you should definitely check out this galog.co website. I will put a link down below in the description, but it is very useful for planning and finding routes and finding where you can make the most profit trading certain commodities. The first section on this website I wanted to show you was the commodities section. This will have a list of all the commodities you can buy and sell in Star Citizen, and they sorted into categories. Now, if you're beginning, I would recommend looking at distilled spirits, stems, and scrap, as they all have great profit margins. The reason profit margin is so important is it's correlated to the number of runs you'll have to do successfully to cover the capital investment that it takes to essentially buy the goods to trade them. For instance, if you take distilled spirits, you're going to have to do slightly less than 4 runs to pay for what it would cost to fill your cargo hold. But if we look at medical supplies, you're going to have to do a little bit more than 5 runs to get all of your capital back. So you might be wondering to yourself, which commodity do I start with? And that's going to depend on the size of your ship. If you're in a very small ship, your options are basically limited to illegal drugs. If you're in a medium-sized ship, so nomad and bigger, you can make a decent money selling distilled spirits or stems. If you're in a large ship, like 120 SCU plus, you can make okay money selling scrap. Ultimately, which commodity you choose is going to be dependent on how much money you have and how much cargo space you have to fill. Luckily, there's a tool within Galog that can help us determine the cost to fill. If we go to the projections tab and we plug in our ship, I'm going to use a Cutlass Black for the example. We can go and find the commodity we want to sell. I sort by profit just so you have an idea of where these are at as far as profitability. So if we look at stems, it's going to cost about 12,000 to fill a cutlass full of stems, and we're going to be able to sell it for 17,000 and make a profit of 4,600. It's interesting that I think it's bugged right now for distilled spirits because there's such a wide variety in cost difference. Yeah, so it doesn't cost 25,000 to fill a cutlass full of distilled spirits. In my experience, it costs 17 to 18,000, and you make about 6,000 in profit. Here I actually have a video of selling some distilled spirits in a cutlass, and I'll show you that right now. So here we are flying into Terra Mills. This is my preferred place to buy distilled spirits. It's pretty cheap, and it also has an armistice zone. A little trick you can do here is to open your star map with F2 and click set route again, and this will give you an indication of where you should be flying to so you don't overshoot it. If you spool your quantum drive and cancel it, it will give you a range indication in kilometers. I'm going to go ahead and land on the landing pad, although you don't have to. You can land right next to the building if you so choose. The building you're looking for at Terra Mills is this building in the center here. Then you'll see once I get in here that the commodities didn't load, so I ultimately have to go back to my ship, take off, land again. Or you can just wait. I'm actually not 100% sure why this bug happens, but it does happen from time to time, and it'll take a while for the trade console to load your ship's inventory. So I'm just going to go ahead and land right next to the trade building. Maybe this will help. I do have to do this a few times in this particular instance. Sometimes you show up the first time and you can just use it and everything is fine. I think it's a bug. I hope they get it fixed soon, but I'm just showing you what you might have to do to make things work. And here I broke the door on my cutlass. This is an example of what not to do, but unfortunately I did it. I did go inside and try to sell again, but the trade console was still not working, so I decided to move my ship back to the pad to see if that would work. Ultimately that didn't work, and I actually had to move my ship one more time. This time I decided to move it in the middle, and I think it did work after this.
So after that landing, the terminal properly loaded and I was able to sell my agricultural supplies for about $5,500 and make about $900 in profit. I was then able to fill my cargo hold with distilled spirits for about $18,600.
Man, sometimes these terminals load very slow. So then I made my way back to my ship and headed out for Port Olisar. Normally I would head somewhere else to sell the distilled spirits and then purchase another good, but in this case, since I had broken the back door of my cutlass, I decided that Port Olisar was the best bet as I could repair it there. I was able to sell the distilled spirits in Port Olisar for $24,785, which makes my profit with the agricultural supplies about 7,000 Alpha UEC for that one run. So I headed back to Terra Mills to load up on some more distilled spirits to show you another place you could potentially sell them. I think it's important to add here that these aren't the only places you can sell the distilled spirits at. And this is one thing that I think makes distilled spirits such a good entry-level trade route is there is a ton of places you can sell them, which lets you explore the game while still making a profit without very much risk. Hitch's research outpost on Selin buys distilled spirits but also sells stems, so this is where I'm going to be headed. Some of the best places to sell distilled spirits are the L stations. They can buy about 160 SCU of cargo, 160,000 units, and they also sell scrap at a really cheap rate, so you can buy the scrap there and then sell it in Port Olisar. So you're going to be able to use the terminal here at this red building on the left. If you land next to it, it's a pretty quick walk. Landings don't have to be pretty as long as they work. So we're just going to go in here and sell our distilled spirits now. And we're going to be able to sell them for $25,530, which is about $6,600 in profit. So a little bit better than Port Olisar, but not the best you can get. And we're going to be able to buy a load of stems for $12,880. And now I'm going to head back to Terra Mills Hydro Farm. We're just going to land here and run inside to sell our cargo.
Engines offline.
And we're going to be able to sell it for $17,479, will give us about $4,600 in profit. And then I'm going to buy more distilled spirits and I'm going to move on to the next place to sell them. So here you can see I broke the back ramp of my cutlass. There is a little trick you can do to get yourself back in your ship and on your way to your next trade location. I'm going to go ahead and run over to the ground vehicle terminal and spawn a Cyclone. You can purchase a Cyclone for 28,000 Alpha UEC at the New Deal in Lorryville. If you're new to Star Citizen and don't have the money, feel free to join my Discord and send me a message, and I'd be more than happy to send you the money to get a Cyclone. They're very effective for getting back in your ship and doing ground FPS missions. For this little trick though, you're just going to park it under the side ramp and then get up on the hood and then jump into your ship. And just like that, you're back on your way. You're able to go to Port Olisar or somewhere like that and land, repair your ship, and sell your cargo. And I wasn't able to sell all of my distilled spirits in Port Olisar as I had recently sold a full load there, and it does have a relatively small refresh rate, but if I waited a few more minutes I'd be able to sell the rest of this. The total profit from this route I ran here was 16,600, which is just a little bit more than twice the amount you'd get from a box delivery mission, and if you consider they both had 3 stops, not a bad deal.
So on this route, I'm going to be using my Carrack. This will give you an idea of what you can do with the larger ships with larger cargo holds and potential routes you can make with distilled spirits. I'm going to start by selling the agricultural supplies I bought at Port Olisar, and this shows you how much agricultural supplies Terra Mills can buy. The refresh rate's pretty high and the overall capacity is pretty high as well. So you can see here I was only able to buy 313 SCU of distilled spirits. This is probably the limiting factor of distilled spirit trade routes for the Carrack and the Caterpillar, is being able to buy them. There's only a few locations that sell them, and there are even less that sell them at a good price. I'm going to go ahead and make my way to her L3. This will be the first location that I sell distilled spirits at. I think this particular trade route would be optimal with like a Mercury Star Runner or a Freelancer Max, as they have size 2 drives, which they accelerate much quicker than size 3 or 1, so it makes long quantum travels rather advantageous for ships that have a size 2 quantum drive. The other reason those ships would particularly be good for this is they're able to land much quicker than the Carrack or the Caterpillar. However, the Carrack and the Caterpillar can take much more cargo, enough to do 2 or 3 stops.
Engines offline.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
So if you haven't been to space stations in a little while, you do have to ride an elevator now down to the Galleria, rather than just running through a long hallway. I think it's better. It's more consistent overall. So at this first stop, I'm going to be able to sell 160 SCU of distilled spirits for 90,650. So because the L stations can only buy 160 units of distilled spirits, I'm going to make my way to CRU L4 to sell the rest of them. So when I do trade routes that often require a long quantum travel, I like to listen to podcasts or watch movies, because most of the time you're in quantum and then occasionally you just have to land and run in and run out. I always get a little nervous when landing the Carrack because it can be such a tight squeeze. The turrets like barely scrape on either side. It's kind of crazy. You do get the hang of it though, and smaller ships are much easier to land than bigger ships, but that's part of the challenge.
Landing complete.
And here I'm able to sell the rest of the distilled spirits for 86,525, which makes me about 50,000 in profit if my math is correct. But yeah, it's definitely decent money, and it's pretty low risk as far as compared to other maybe potentially higher value trade routes. And after finishing selling the distilled spirits, I'm gonna go ahead and buy a full load of scrap and head back to Port Olisar. Just a little tip for landing large ships at these in these hangars: if you, on your way out, if you store your ship and call it back, it will be facing the right way to pull out forward rather than trying to back out. If you want to challenge, you can go ahead and try to back out, but I prefer to fly out forward. So while I'm getting in my seat here, getting ready to take off, I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you like Star Citizen content. And I'm going to show you here at the end how much you can sell that scrap for. Oh, one more thing. If you're trading, it's important to just keep your situational awareness on high alert. Like, you want to be looking to see if anybody pops up on your radar when you're around trade stations or Port Olisar or L stations, as Usually before you get attacked, you'll be able to see some people, and potentially you could jump away from a hostile situation. I haven't had much trouble when I've been in small ships carrying cheap cargo, although pretty much any large ship is going to be a target. So we're going to be able to sell the scrap for 84,360, which is about 14,000 in profit. So overall, you're looking at 70 to 80,000 in profit for this kind of run with 3 stops, which isn't bad considering you don't have that much capital on the line at any one moment in time.